Welcome to StoryGrove, where we share screen-free stories for kids without noisy advertisements. We hope you enjoy. The forest smelled like pine needles and marshmallows. It was the kind of crisp, sun-dappled afternoon where the leaves whispered to each other and dragonflies zipped lazily above the tall grass. Down by the lake, a family of 4 was setting up their campsite, totally unaware that they were about to lose something very small and very important. Mom and Dad were busy pitching the tent, one of those big, bright orange, 12-zipper, fits an entire football team kind of tents. The kind of tent that took a master's degree in engineering to set up without accidentally turning it into a giant upside-down kite. Meanwhile, the kids, Liam and Ellie, were having an intense debate about whether or not frogs could burp. "Of course frogs burp," Liam declared, hands on his hips. "They eat bugs. Bugs have air. It's basic science." Ellie, who was 7 and thus knew everything, squinted at her brother. "I don't think you know what science is." Dad grunted as he hammered a stake into the ground. "Both of you. How about we find a frog later and ask it personally?" Mum called over. "First, let's finish setting up. We can hike before dinner." 10 minutes later, the tent stood triumphantly upright, with all its zippers zipped and the door flaps flapping in the breeze. Inside, Mum had laid out sleeping bags like puffy, colourful caterpillars, and Dad was already setting up their tiny camp stove. Liam and Ellie raced around, poking sticks at imaginary monsters, and daring each other to step closer to the water's edge. It was, by all accounts, the perfect camping afternoon. After munching on trail mix and making sure the tent stakes were holding firm, the family decided it was time for a hike. They grabbed their water bottles and followed a winding trail through the forest. The air smelled like damp earth and sweet sap, and everywhere they looked there were flashes of movement. A squirrel here, a rabbit there, and once a startled deer that stared at them with wide eyes before darting off into the trees. "Did you see that?" Ellie whispered, pointing. "It had antlers like a superhero." Liam was more interested in the muddy paw prints they kept finding on the trail. "Definitely raccoon tracks," he said authoritatively, though the prints were more likely made by something much smaller, and possibly a runaway chipmunk. But after about an hour of hiking, Ellie stopped suddenly. "Do you hear that?" Everyone paused. Low in the distance, a rumble rolled through the forest like a giant clearing its throat. "Uh-oh," Dad said, glancing at the sky. The clouds were thickening, turning the soft blue into a heavy grey. "Storm's coming," Mum said. "Let's head back." The family hustled back toward camp, the wind picking up and sending leaves spiralling past them. By the time they reached the tent, the first fat raindrops had started to fall. They zipped themselves inside just as the sky opened up and the rain poured down. Now here's the thing about tents. They're cozy, they're fun, but when you're stuck inside one during a storm with 2 very energetic kids, you need a game plan. Luckily, Mum had come prepared. She dug through one of their camping bags and triumphantly pulled out hungry, hungry hippos. Liam and Ellie cheered. "Yes!" Liam shouted. "Prepare to lose, Ellie!" "You wish!" Ellie shot back, already setting up the hippos and dumping a pile of colourful marbles into the middle. Dad rolled out the sleeping bags in a circle, and soon they were crouched around the little plastic board, elbows jostling, fingers poised. Outside, the storm howled and splattered against the tent walls, but inside it was all shouts and laughter as the hippos snapped wildly, gobbling up marbles like there was no tomorrow. "Ellie, you can't block me," Liam complained, trying to maneuver his hippo. "I'm not blocking you. I'm strategizing," Ellie replied, grinning. Mum leaned back, sipping from her water bottle, while Dad kept score with an old pen and the back of a snack wrapper. Everything was going perfectly until... Pop! One marble shot across the board, bounced off Liam's elbow, ricocheted off the edge of the sleeping bag, and zoomed straight toward the tent door. Everyone froze as if in slow motion. "No!" Liam shouted, lunging, but it was too late. The marble rolled right up to the zipper's edge, squeezed through a tiny gap they hadn't noticed. Now, earlier that afternoon, Sam had been in charge of zipping the tent closed. But Sam, being more focused on getting first dibs on the red hippo, had left just the tiniest gap at the bottom of the zipper, barely noticeable, maybe 2 fingers wide. It was exactly wide enough. The marble, shimmering in the dim light like a tiny pearl, rolled, and slipped right out of the tent with a faint plop. "Uh-oh," said Ellie, freezing mid-hippo mash. Sam stared at the empty spot where the marble had been. Did that just... Dad leaned forward, peeking toward the flap. "Tell me that didn't just roll outside?" Another rumble of thunder answered. "Guys," Mum said, now kneeling to peer out, "it's really coming down now. Look." "So," Dad concluded, "the marble is somewhere outside, it's pouring, and we may be one marble short for the tournament finals." Ellie groaned dramatically. "That was my lucky marble." Sam zipped the tent flap fully shut this time. It's okay, we can't let the marble win. We'll find it after the storm." Mum laughed. Or maybe it went off to have its own adventure. The family settled back inside, the storm pattering around them, hippos momentarily forgotten. They played card games, told stories, and munched sandwiches as lightning flickered distantly. All the while, none of them could quite stop wondering, where exactly had that sneaky marble rolled off to? The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving the forest smelling fresh and green. Puddles dotted the ground like little lakes of their own, and birds chirped as if nothing had happened at all. Inside the tent, Ellie woke first, blinking sleepily at the bright sunlight filtering through the canvas. She stretched, sat up, and then suddenly remembered. "The marble!" she whispered, elbowing her brother. Sam yawned and rubbed his eyes. "Oh yeah, the runaway marble." Mum and Dad stirred from their sleeping bags as well. "Anyone want pancakes before we start the great marble hunt?" Dad asked, already rummaging through the cooler. Ellie and Sam nodded enthusiastically. After all, one should never embark on a quest without a proper pancake foundation. After breakfast, armed with a magnifying glass, borrowed from Dad's fishing tackle box, a trail mix pouch, and a sense of purpose, the family set out. They began at the tent door, crouching low to inspect the ground. "Here," Sam pointed dramatically, "a marble trail." In truth, it was just a small groove in the mud where the marble had rolled before the rain washed most of it away, but it was enough. Ellie leaned close, and it definitely went that way. They followed the faint track past the picnic table, over some squishy pine needles, and down a gentle slope toward the lake. "You think it made it all the way to the water?" Sam asked. "It had determination," Dad said solemnly, "like its owner." Ellie beamed. Near the shoreline, something glinted. "Look," Mom pointed. "Is that—" Sure enough, there it was, the blue marble resting right at the edge of the lake, half submerged and sparkling in the sunlight. But before anyone could grab it, a curious ripple disturbed the water. A flash of silver scales darted past, and just like that, the marble disappeared. Did that fish just eat our marble?" Sam gaped. Ellie peered into the water. "I think it did." Dad scratched his head. "Well, that's a first." Mum laughed. "Looks like the marble wants an underwater adventure now." Sam glanced at the nearby canoe tied to a tree. "We could go fishing." Ellie's eyes lit up. "Let's catch the marble thief." So the family gathered their fishing rods, life vests, and snacks, because fishing requires snacks, and climbed into the wobbly canoe. Dad rowed steadily while Mum kept lookout. Ellie and Sam, perched at the front, scanned the water with intense focus. "What if the fish spits it out before we find it?" Ellie wondered aloud. "Or what if it joined a fish band and went on tour?" Sam added. Dad laughed. "Only one way to find out." They cast their lines, the bait plopping gently into the water. Minutes passed, then hours. They caught one fish, not the marble fish, then another. Also not the marble fish, though this one gave Dad a particularly soggy splash. By midday, the tally stood at 3 fish, 0 marbles. Ellie huffed. "Maybe it's gone forever." But just then Sam yelped, "Oh, I got something, big one!" The canoe rocked as Sam reeled furiously, the line jerking and splashing. Together, Dad helped steady the rod while Mum kept them balanced. With one last heave, Sam pulled up the wiggliest, floppiest fish yet. And there, glinting faintly from its open mouth, was a familiar shiny blue marble. "That's it!" Ellie cheered. The fish gave them one wide-eyed look and promptly spat the marble right into Dad's lap before flopping back into the lake with a splash. For a moment, no one spoke. Then they all burst out laughing. "Victory!" Mom declared, holding up the marble triumphantly. They paddled back to shore, wet, tired, and entirely satisfied. That evening, as they roasted marshmallows by the campfire, Ellie placed the marble carefully beside her. "Think it'll roll off on another adventure?" Sam teased. "Not a chance." Ellie grinned, holding it tight. Dad toasted them with his marshmallow stick. "To the Great Marble Chase. Best camping trip ever." The family laughed under the starry sky, the little marble glinting quietly beside them. Finally home. Thanks for listening to today's story. We hope you enjoyed it and feel calm and cozy. If you'd like more screen-free, ad-free, and wholesome stories, don't forget to follow our channel. Or hop on over to our YouTube channel for even more wholesome screen-free tales. See you next time.